Hey, come on.
He's mad at me about it.
Like how,
So he's now,
Okay.
he got hit,
which
not
is
half
fine, I don't know about that job anyway, but.
If you'll please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Loving Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessings and help as we are gathered together. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit and joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. September 15th council meeting. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo,
Here.
Mrs. Moody, Mr. Parsons, Miss Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Redding,
Here?
Mrs. Dosa,
Here.
Mr. George.
Okay, we have a number of council members missing this evening. Does anyone like to excuse?
Make a motion to excuse Jennifer, Bob, and Cordell.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made a motion to excuse our three absent members.
Lingo.
Yeah, Ms. Lingo is seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You have the minutes before you from the September 1st meeting. I hope you've taken a few minutes to look them over. Does anybody have any corrections or thing that they have found in there? I would ask for a motion to adopt.
Make the motion to adopt the minutes of September 1st.
Ms. Peterson has made a motion to adopt.
A second.
Who said that? Oh, Ms. Dosa is seconded. I'm sorry. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Also attached to that is the work session minutes, September 1st, 2020. I'd like a motion to adopt those if nobody sees any corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve the work session minutes.
Okay, Ms. Peterson has made a motion to adopt. Second?
Second?
Mr. Redding is seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Correspondence. You have some notes and different things from the police department and the fire department on the incident reports and so forth. There's also a letter here. Bill, are you going to read that in your report, or?
From,
It is from
Duke Energy.
Emerson, Jim Emerson from Forest Park, in regards to the,
on Park Avenue,
Yeah.
or on Forest Avenue?
he's in Forest Park,
Thanking us.
thanking us for.
Oh, yeah. No, if you want to, it's under
Okay.
correspondence, you can, yeah.
There's a copy in your letter, but I'd like to, in your packet, but I'd like to read it. It's, Dear Mr. Coker, hello, I am Jim Emerson, a resident of Forest Park. I'm writing to thank you and the city of Mount Healthy for having your Friday night concerts. My wife and I enjoy live music, outside music, and Mount Healthy has been the only city we could find that has had them this year. In spite of all our concerns with the virus, it has been good to live our lives, enjoy some great bands, and have fun with friends as we share time together. Thank you for allowing us to do this. Best regards, Mr. Jim Emerson. I know we had a little controversy about some discussion about having them. Not heard anything bad, where 500 people come down with the virus or anything, so I guess we did all right.
No community spread.
Does anybody else have any correspondence? Okay, guest special events. JMA is here. Ms. Jennifer Batter?
And
Come on.
John Godey, I didn't know John was going to get in on Friday, so John's also, he's our
Okay,
engineer. and
welcome, John and Jennifer.
JMA.
Thank you. So there are two kind of outlines, so if you didn't grab those, I have some extra copies here. The first one, the one that does not have an option, is just, so not option B, is I believe the one, Bill, maybe you just kind of discussed a little bit at the last council meeting or work session. So we went through, to look at the funding recommendations as we do every year, as to what we apply for through OPWC, which is the Ohio Public Works Commission. And Madison and Forest is a project that we applied for last year as a number 2 priority. The other project that Bill brought up to us was Compton Roads. It's another one that's getting in bad shape. That's from Hamilton Avenue to the West Corp line. And then the third project is Hamilton Avenue, which is actually part of the ODOT urban paving program. So ODOT has been corresponding with Bill and us as well about that project. So that's a project that ODOT does, every, so many years. There's not a set number of years necessarily, but through and, so they'll come in and say, we will pay for this much. Essentially, they will pay for paving. When it comes down to it, they make, the city pay for curb ramps, and other items. So when it comes down to it, historically, it's pretty much a 50-50. So the total project cost, and then it's pretty much a 50-50 split with the city and ODOT. But it's still certainly something they want to take advantage of, especially for, a road like Hamilton Avenue. So in discussions with Bill, we've kind of talked over the last year how, that we could possibly leverage that ODOT money with OPWC, which is, a little unusual, not what you've done, but, those don't come around very often, the ODOT project. So we looked at this, and this first sheet goes through Madison and Forest, and that is a 30% match, essentially, which is a loan. So that could be your number 1 priority. We think that has a decent chance of getting funded at 30% if the score holds from last year. And I know that doesn't necessarily make sense. Last year it scored very well. You haven't done anything to it. It's still in bad shape. It hasn't gotten any better. But sometimes the score goes down. So we've had that argument with this support staff through over 20 years. So just to know that if it holds that score, it has a good chance, but there's no guarantee for that. So, and we've seen it. It happens every year to at least a few projects that we put in. So keep that in mind. Compton, we just put it at 20%. I know a lot of times we'll just kind of put a project in, Bill, number 2 at 20%, see how it scores. So that one really, quite honestly, at a number 2 doesn't have a great shot of getting funded at 20%. And then number 3, and here's where I think the discussion, got maybe kind of interesting, is that Hamilton Avenue is a little bit different project because the condition is not terrible, and it has outside funds. So you have this ODOT funds. It's not your local funds. So it's going to score better with what they call the LTIP program. So we put in 1 application, it gets 2 separate scores. So with LTIP, the priority doesn't matter as much. So initially we were thinking maybe Hamilton Avenue at a number 3 might be best. So since that discussion 2 weeks ago, we went back and looked and kind of fine-tuned a little bit. And scoring these with the criteria that's just been put out, the final criteria, which really hasn't changed. But we think the best shot at getting 2 potential projects would be to put Hamilton Avenue at a number 1 priority. Even though the priority points don't mean as much, it could be 10 points between a number 1 and number 3, and every point does matter in this. It's a very, very competitive program. So given that you're going to do Hamilton Avenue, you have that expense, it makes sense to us. And again, this is our recommendation. It's certainly, it can change depending on priorities and what the impetus for the projects are. But, at a number 1, we think it has a pretty good chance of getting funded. And then you could put, Madison and Forest, again, if there's that impetus, to do it at a 50% match, and have a pretty decent shot at getting that funded as a number 2 priority with a 50% match. So that's, again, our recommendation for best shot at getting the most funded. And then it's certainly, up to council administration as to what you would like to do. So, and I can just go through that Hamilton Avenue a little bit. We also have the MRF grant that we will apply for, municipal road funds, which you've been successful getting. There's only certain roads in the city that are eligible for that. So that's not a slam dunk or a guarantee either, but we are going to apply for it this year, so to see if we can get that next year, so.
This has been, we probably talked more about road priorities. In the past, it's fairly straightforward. We typically, our community set up to score best on skip. We typically don't have outside funds like the LTIP to even really score. I don't think I've ever seen us score on an LTIP to be in a position to get funding. So I think that's why we've had a lot of discussion. It's kind of new for everybody to kind of get their arms around. And there's a lot of positive things going on here. I don't want to overshadow. We got to make choices, and some roads will get a priority over another. But the good news is we already pretty much have secured almost over $500,000 from the urban paving project. That's great news, right? We still got a long way to go. However, this first scenario shows us almost being able to fund, if we can get the municipal road funds, which we have. It's been a few years, so hopefully we can. Nearly $1 million project, almost 100% funded, which would be huge. And we really have that is a I guess you would call it a priority, because it's moving forward. Whether last thing we want to do is be in a position that we need to come up with $600,000 or $700,000, and we're not able to move because we would lose the over $568,000 that the urban paving project has already slotted for us. So I think it's been the challenge of trying to figure out, we want to take our eye off of this one, but what else can we do? And in the past, it's been pretty straightforward with us. We'd have a priority. And the big question was, are you going to fund it at 20% or 30%, right? And, a typical road project around $1 million, I always said that's the $100,000 question every year, right? It's either going to be, we have to come up with $200,000 or $300,000. And for a while, we would risk it, and we would score well enough, and we'd be right there on the bubble. It seemed like almost every year. I remember one year we at 20, we were just below the cut line, but we got money in and we got it funded. So sometimes we took on that. We started to see a trend where we weren't scoring, we weren't getting funded. So the current project that we have that Jennifer's going to talk a little bit, just give us a quick update on. We went with a 30% to get that project funded. So we're seeing to have to, and if you see most of these projects, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but most communities are doing a 50% match. A lot of them have to.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge that we got here. So now, when you look at the Madison Forest at a 50% match, it's no longer the $100,000 question. It's about a $250,000 or $260,000 question as to, and I guess it becomes more of a question of, is it a 2021 project or a 2022 project, right? Because when it comes down to it, it's no guarantee, but we have a decent shot of getting it funded for 2021, but we have to take it up to a 50% match. If we waited a year, we can make it our one priority and get it funded for about a $400,000 requirement, about a $265,000 difference. One other thing, I talked to Joe and Bob, who both have been in discussions and on finance with this, plus the on the street committee. We do have some reserves in our skip fund and our street levy fund. We could maybe apply some if that $665,000 piece for Madison Forest is a big pill to swallow. We could maybe earmark $200 out of that, so you're back to about a $450,000 commitment. So. I'm sorry, I know we've talked around this a lot. I think the LTIP has just brought in a whole new project or a way of looking at and funding this, and I think it's good. I'm glad we're doing this now, right? And we can talk this through, and we can make sure we get it prioritized right and submitted properly. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know if council has any other.
Mr. Redding?
I do have a question, and, you know, as you keep going through this, you kind of keep thinking of more things. So are LTIP rankings segregated from SCIP rankings?
They are, so
So
it's,
can we have two number ones, one for SCIP and one for LTIP?
no, so it is one, you
Okay.
put in one
We try.
application. Yeah, yeah. So you put in one application, and they automatically score every single application they receive both ways. So
Gotcha.
there's the same criteria that are scored, but then different multipliers. Like SCIP is a condition, like a multiplier of 5. LTIP for condition is a multiplier of 1. So that's how they get 2 different scores. So LTIP is generally for busier roads or capacity issues, like a lot of congestion, or safety. So we're gonna try to, do is, if we can try to garner any of those safety points.
So by putting Hamilton Avenue 1, it'll help us in that it's a higher priority for us, so it'll get more points, correct?
Correct, that's
So-
correct.
Okay.
It'll get more points, and LTIP scores better, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, with outside funds. That's the other element. That's why
Yes.
I don't think we've ever qualified on an LTIP project
do you
that I'm
recall?
aware of. It's always
Don't-
been
yeah.
SCIP.
I think so.
Because we typically don't have $500,000, $600,000 in outside
Outside.
funds to put it up, to get that score. So with the outside funds and making it one priority, it hopefully elevates us in a position to get it funded.
And then the other thing, Bill, I don't know if I heard you say this, but this LTIP is a grant. So
Right.
we would not have to pay anything on that back. So that would be, if we got it all, it would be all free money. We would put up, here it says $17,052
Right, to cover
for a $1.1 million project.
Right, if we're also successful to get the 95
Yes.
from municipal
Yeah.
road funds. Again,
Yes.
we haven't applied for that yet, but we're hopeful for that. But
Yep, so, and we do typically land that every year. The municipal road funds, I think,
No,
are pretty close.
We don't apply.
Not it?
It only pertains to certain streets. They have to be through streets, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
so not all projects were, and it's.
But the
almost-
ones
it's
we
kind of
do,
a
we
waiting
usually
game. You
get.
kind of take your turn, and so when we have a project that qualifies for, we get it, and we've typically been
Right.
successful.
I mean, we got it for Adams, we got it for Compton. I think this
Yep,
goes
those
back
are-
a ways, but I think we got it for Hamilton the first time.
I'm sure at some point, yeah.
And when was the first time we did Hamilton?
Well, it's been a while. It's been probably 20 years, but,
Yeah.
so, okay. So the concern is that on number 2 is we could potentially save by going in next year for Madison and Forest, $265,000. Because you would only need
Typically,
you may only need
successful
a
has a
200
one priority with a 30% match.
versus
With
2
good
priority.
conditions in our economic environment, you usually get it funded.
Yes.
But there's no guarantees.
That's right. It just, kind of depends on what you're up against year to year, but, yep.
What if we flip-flopped 2 and 3? How does that, is Compton Road bad enough to where we could get, I'm just trying to get 2 projects done this year.
John, what do you think the condition of Compton? I think Madison and Forest will work. Yeah, I would agree.
We stand a better chance? Okay.
Right.
What are the real chances of getting this LTIP money for Hamilton Avenue? Have any idea?
I mean, I looked back, and again, it does vary year to year because it depends, on the competition. Then it depends on, the projects, they're funded, how much they're pumped. You might have 2 huge projects that are taking the pot. But I did look back at the last couple of years, where the cut line was with the score, and it scores, pretty well, a few above the cut line the last couple of years at the number 1. So, it's not real high, but I think it has a pretty good chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I
And
mean,
we need-
Jennifer is able to go back, she has to make assumptions, right, on things like how many points we might get for safety. But, she's done this, enough to know, gives a good shot at it. So, but
Right.
again, there's no guarantee.
No guarantee, I understand.
If we scored well, would there be a chance of getting a lesser grant and still getting in, or?
No, this particular grant program through OPWC in our district, they don't do that. Like sometimes with OKI, they will, you'll apply for a certain amount and maybe they'll say, well, we're gonna reduce everybody's amount to give you a little more, but
Okay.
typically no. It's what you apply for, you either get it or you don't, unless it's at the end of the cycle and it's residual and they say, here's what's left, do you want it, kind of a thing, but that's, yeah.
So, and this is no different than, except for Hamilton Avenue, just so everybody's clear, we want to do this project, so even if we don't get LTIP money, we would still go after this.
Oh, we're not gonna get back to 560, no, we'll just have to come up,
We'll have to eat it ourselves, and that's the risk I want to make sure everybody understands. So that means we would have to dip into approximately, by the time we're done paying for Adams and Maple, I believe it is, we'd have about 320 left in our skip fund that we could apply, but then the rest, we would have to borrow, and that would come with an interest rate. That would not be zero free, correct? That would not be zero interest rate.
right.
So just so everybody knows the risk involved.
Jennifer, I know the timing is off a little bit from typical years, because usually in September, we would be passing the legislation.
Yeah.
At what point do we need to have legislation for you to give us give you the priorities and the match amounts and so forth?
Well, you can pass the enabling legislation anytime. The due date is November 6th, so you'll need to pass that next month, but you do not have to list the priorities in that enabling legislation.
Okay.
So, if we would, but we still need to know, like, mid-October, so
What
that
our-
way we can formulate that. I mean,
What our
we'll be,
priorities are, okay.
we'll be, going through the application, so really the priorities, kind of the last, that's not a big thing to change, so.
Right.
But, mid-October, third week of October, I would say, yep.
Okay, so, Council, why don't we get the enabling legislation together for next meeting that we need to pass, and then we can discuss it at that meeting and kind of like Jennifer just said, by mid-October, we need to let them know, here's the one priority, here's the two priority, here's the two priority match, here's the three priority, here's the three priority match, and then they can run with it from there. Does that sound like a plan? I mean, there's three, with three people out, we want to get as much input, but I still think we have a little bit of time. You think that'll work?
I agree, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Jennifer, okay, are we?
I do have one more question. On the curb ramps on Hamilton Avenue, do they currently meet state guidance or?
I don't know if all.
Some of them do, some of them don't.
Right.
The
Okay.
ones that don't, you'll have to bring up to standard with the tribe.
Okay,
And that's part of those costs, that's why.
yeah,
Instead of an 80/20, it comes 50/50, because those are 100% mental health cost to do that. The state will not pay for any part of that.
understand. Okay, so it sounds to me like that's already in this cost then?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Everybody understand the ins and outs of this?
Okay, just, could you give us a quick update on the Adams, Hickman, Elizabeth project?
Yeah, so that project was funded under this last round, but again, that was delayed, so quite a bit. So we didn't find out until end of July, maybe, I think, yeah, and usually you're signing the project agreement by July 1st. So that is in design now, so survey and design, and when do you think we'll bid that project?
It'll be toward later in the year.
Mhm.
We had hoped, it was never gonna be finished this year. We thought we might be able to get it started, because even if the state had.
Hey, John, would you mind
Yeah, do you
coming
wanna
up
stand up?
there, because I think some people maybe, sorry.
Even though the state was later this year, even if they were on time, we wouldn't have been able to start that until August, because the money's not officially available until July, and by the time you bid it and get it going, it's usually mid-August before you can start anyway. So I think we're gonna start that, it's probably gonna be around the first of the year, after the holidays. And,
To bid it?
well, I think if we can bid it this year,
Uh-huh.
and, I mean, if you look for the good side of that, you should get pretty good prices. So, because I do know
But it
you
would be
know,
bid this year.
contractors. Bid this year started, it'd probably be a winter job. I've been told the Waterworks is going to participate, so it's a perfect job for contractors to put the water main in. They like doing the water mains when it's in the winter. So that job could probably start in January, early February, and then be done by the summer. And in that case, you're not struggling to get it done in the fall, so.
Great.
They were out today, just anecdotally.
Our field crews were out there
You
today,
guys,
yes.
okay, yeah.
yes. Yeah, they'll probably be out there for a while.
Okay.
Water company was out yesterday. They
Were they?
had trucks out there, had to wait for the utility people to come to
Yeah. So the good news is, I think John quickly touched on it, was that the Waterworks, it looks like they're gonna, because they have to do the north end of Elizabeth and Hickman. We don't need water, a new line on Adams, right? In that section of Adams.
They had me a little confused. It looked like maybe one block, but I'm not sure if they were going to replace in that block. That's not, that part of the city's project's not being reconstructed. So they'd have to go in, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive for them to put their water main in because they have to do the full restoration. So that may come into play when they decide whether or not they're going to do that, as well as other budgetary things. I think they've been doing a lot of work. Waterworks has been replacing everywhere, and they may be running out, and I don't know this, but their projects may be more competitive. That was the email I got, was like, they may do it, they may not, depending on how it rates versus other projects they have in the system.
Right. But plan is that they are, and hopefully.
Yeah, I'd say they're gonna do them.
Right. Okay. So, any other, is that, give you clarity on the Elizabeth project?
How far down Elizabeth does the waterworks go? Is it only on to,
Private drive.
Just to the
yeah,
private
does it go
drive?
just to the private line, end of the public street?
Correct.
And then they tie into whatever the residents have from there out?
Right, I've had, that's a conversation and, that I've had from multiple people, multiple times. The north end of that project is a private drive, there's a culvert there. The neighbors, the residents back there are well aware that the city's not gonna go on private property. But I've encouraged them to get together and be united to say, hey, once this is bid and you have a contractor, that's the ideal time to reach out, when the contractor has their equipment there, to say, hey, what kind of a culvert do we need, here, can it be replaced or so forth?
Jump off of the road component.
The private drive that goes,
Yeah, the water component's a little different. I think, Waterworks, they'd like to get an easement. That was the gist of that email.
oh, okay,
With the water line, I don't think they have an easement. They've asked us to do a little bit of research, so we're gonna do some courthouse research for them to see if we can find an easement. If they don't have an easement, if they can't go in, they're just gonna tie in
Right.
at the end of the public, right away. The city's part of the project will stop there, and like Bill said, if there's other work that needs to get done, that can't be part of this contract, but it could be separate, and they might get a good price from the contractor. But as far as the water line, they'd have to be granted easements by the property owners, and sometimes that's difficult.
right.
Okay.
Tough to get everybody to play in the sandbox at
It sure
the
is.
same time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
Cindy, do you have any questions? She lives on Hickman, that's why.
Oh, okay.
And she's kind of like the spokesperson of that end of the block, so I just thought while she's here.
But I appreciate all the work, and, thank you for doing it. I found a letter from the city that, didn't happen 16 years ago. Thank you. And if I could be of any help, I'm glad. I can round up the neighbors, so if you have any questions or anything like that.
I'm sure our guys wouldn't turn down a batch of cookies. You have to really hit them hard when the contractors are out there.
I'll be glad to do that. People don't like that anymore in Elizabethville, but I'll.
Oh,
Our guys.
I'd take
Yeah.
it.
I'd take them too.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much, Jennifer and John.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
you
Thanks
coming
for
out and helping
tonight.
Okay, so basically, we're going with option B then, is that correct?
Well, no, I think that's their recommendation, and I think it makes most sense. I think it's council's first time seeing it. I'll send it to the members that weren't here tonight. The ordinance that we're gonna do, in October will just be an enabling ordinance that doesn't select a priority. We can talk about it more that night. Hopefully you guys can give me direction and then I can let them know.
Yeah.
But I think I think the big question on B is it a 50% match or is it a standard 30? It's the.
On Madison and Forest?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll be honest, I probably as a 2 priority at 30%, it's gonna be a stretch to get it funded. At
Yes.
50% it might.
Well, I'm excited about moving up Hamilton Avenue to 1 if it helps with the LTIP.
Right.
Because the LTIP will more than make up the difference of what the additional 20% is on Madison. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, but if we don't get the LTIP, it's costing us money.
Right.
So,
I think prioritizing that makes the most
Yeah.
sense. Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ross. I would be like, if I knew I was getting Hamilton Avenue, we could maybe take Forest up to 40%, right? Because then you're kind of cutting it you're kind of cutting it in the middle. And as you were saying, Bill, we can go by 10% increments. Maybe that's enough to get us over. It
Yeah, I
would
don't know.
cost us $100,000 more than waiting a year, but hey, we got one more street done,
Right.
so.
Yeah, that's an option. I mean, I think what I asked them to do is give us a recommendation on what would be the best process to get 2 projects funded. What would be the best,
well, I have a lot of faith in JMA. They've done the city right for many, many years.
right?
And it's their knowledge that gets us this money and help, so I have a lot of faith in them. They know what they're doing. But we're taking a little bit of a risk if we go with option B as it's set up. But if we get the LTIP money, wow,
Yeah.
that's phenomenal.
Well, and I also think in the current unknowns, we saw what we just went through with Adams and Elizabeth and Hickman. The thing that benefited us is even though that wasn't funded at first through the capital budget, we did get it approved already. So the opportunity to get 2 projects approved, even if we go through another situation like that where the state freezes the funding, at least we know that they'll be slated to be started once the funding comes through. So I do think trying to get as many approved as we can early would be beneficial considering all the unknowns.
I guess I don't want to throw a monkey into the works here, but on the Madison Forest Avenue, Madison is from Park to Forest. There's a stretch there over to Harrison that is in awful bad shape.
Yes, it was on our list for actually 2021 application.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
It was
enough, there's
first
enough of a
priority
stretch
for-
there to be part of a street, then that's the one block that we're missing.
Right.
That would,
But we were gonna tie that in
fund
with
well if we
Warner.
went out on its own?
What? No, we're gonna tie it in with
We're
Warner.
gonna tie it in with
Okay.
Warner from
Yeah.
Stevens.
All right,
And Warner to Hamilton on the Madison one.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you would go all the way to Hamilton with it. You wouldn't
Yeah,
just stop at Harrison. But that project's already sitting at $1.3 million, so it's just,
yes. What project doesn't cost
Yeah.
$1.3 billion anymore?
right.
Okay. Special events, public input. Wait, come up to the microphone and give us your name and address.
I'm Cindy Sheets at 7928 Hickman. When they were talking about, it's more of a question, I guess, the safety with Hamilton Avenue, I mean, that corner at Hamilton and Adams, when children are going to school, we have lots of accidents there. Is that included somehow or another? I mean, I don't know. It is a question. And can that be explained? And I don't know that you can fix that by road construction, but
Right, I mean.
I always have a concern with the children there at that.
We've addressed that, and it's still, I mean, we still are in the process of completing a Safe Routes to School grant. That has been funded for several years now, but when you get free federal money, it's great, but man, the hoops you have to jump through. And it's taken so long to get because there needed to be right-of-way acquisition made on all four of those corners there at Adams, and then you throw in Walgreens going out of business. I mean, it's just been a nightmare. Melanie's dealt with a lot of it. Now, it's not gonna solve everything, but the plan is to change the type of striping there, to put the piano key types, which is more visible, and do some different things. But beyond that, there's not much you can do besides, because a lot of times it's people turning right, it's already restricted, it's dark, but yeah, that is in there. But now we're running into this project where I'm not gonna have them put in new striping and pay all that money to do that, to do it on the Hamilton. But to your point, though, I think what you're saying, but you may not be saying, is that those type of safety concerns are what can help score the LTIP project well. So, yes. And the state tracks all that. Good. Yeah. Well done.
Okay,
Yeah.
It is.
thank you, Cindy. Anyone else like to talk to council? Got anybody online?
No.
All right, well, we're gonna move on to committee reports. Business and Partnership and the Alliance, Ms. Peterson?
Okay, I don't have a report for the Business Association, as they did not have a meeting yesterday. Then the other thing with the Alliance, let's see here, they did serve 304 families in August. And I believe the Mount Healthy Alliance Food Pantry is still benefiting from donation cards purchased at the Stone Creek Meyer. They get credit for that. The special double match days were September 11th and 12th, so those are done, but they still get a benefit for donations. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Beautification is Ms. Moody, she's not here. Finance is Mr. Parsons. I will turn to administration if there's anything that comes up on that. Okay. Parks, Ms. Lingo.
No report.
Okay. Schools and Safety, Mr. George. Streets and Safety, I'm sorry, Mr. Redding.
Other than what you heard, as you said, Ross, earlier, the statistics report it was part of your packet from the PD, and I thought also the Life Squad too, yes.
Yes, Life Squad was there.
And then I remember reading that, but there was also, Bill, I don't know if you're gonna touch on this, but the Duke Energy letter that was in our packets?
No, I just had, that was more of just informational. I asked Ray to include that in there.
Okay.
So, if you wanna,
well, I'll just,
you probably have,
there, in the near future, Duke Energy will be performing gas leak and corrosion inspections in Mount Healthy. The inspections are PHMSA regulation under the U.S. Department of Transportation, and necessary for safe natural gas pipeline operations. Duke Energy has arranged for this work to be performed by Southern Cross Incorporated. Customers can call Southern Cross at toll-free at 888-694-7284 to schedule an appointment. And then they go on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but anyway, if anybody has any questions about this to get an inspection, they can call the city hall, I would imagine.
yeah, again, I think we're just trying to let people know,
Yes.
that this is going on, and Ray's posted it, sent it out, and I just, so if it came up with council, hey, what's the Southern Cross with Duke all about? So,
Yep.
go ahead, Denise.
They've already come out to my house
Awesome.
a while ago. 'Cause they
Well, this-
found a leak.
this-
Yeah, I don't
Turned
know.
my
Oh,
goodness
yeah,
off.
well, if you found a leak, I'm sure they did come out to your house, but
No, I mean,
No.
they came out and that company came
yes. Yeah, they just contract for us, I do
Yeah.
believe.
out, spray the
But
place.
this letter was dated 8/31, so,
It's been months ago, so does
yeah.
that mean they're gonna come out again then?
Yeah, I think they
well, I
stopped
think
it.
they're just,
Should call them again?
if you just want an inspection done. Yes,
They were doing this a while ago, and I think
Yeah.
it stopped
Yeah.
because of COVID.
Oh, okay,
yes,
'cause I was-
yes, I'm sorry,
Right,
yes.
right, yeah,
Before
so that's why, and it shouldn't, again, it's just letting people know.
So I shouldn't have to call and do it again, because I've already had mine done.
I don't
Yes.
think,
I would think unless you smell gas.
right.
And I would recommend that if anybody smells
I
gas.
called him because I heard a hissing noise.
Same
Yeah,
thing.
that's even worse. If you do smell gas, get out of your house, call them from a neighbor's house,
Right.
and they will
They told me to get off the phone.
take care of you.
Put that cigarette down.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Schools, Mr. George is not here. Library, Ms. Dosa.
Thank you. I did speak to Lacey Worley, the branch manager, and she just told me that things are going well at the branch, that they have had more people stopping by to either pick up holds or fax and print documents. They just started a free meal service at the library, and a lot of the other libraries are doing it. And that's from Mondays, where you can pick up a meal box, and it's from 3 to 5 p.m. They don't have a date set for the opening of the branch for the public to come inside, but the plan is in the works, and they're looking at and anticipating early fall. So as soon as she gives me an official date and more information about that, I will let you know. And that is all I have to report.
Thank you. Urban Tree, Ms. Lingo.
I don't have one yet. I want to get with Bill first. I should have a report next meeting.
We Thrive. Mayor, I'll ask you since Jenny's not here. You got anything?
No update on We Thrive right now.
Okay. Well, then to you, sir. Mayor's report.
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Wood.
lied to you. I said I had no report, but there are just two things I want to mention quickly. One thing that I'm pretty happy about, it's just another example of how this ties in with We Thrive, that our investment in the soccer goals and the other stuff that we got the grants for down in the park are working. Our Lady of Grace, which is the Catholic school that serves Assumption Parish, they started a soccer program this year for the first time, and they're using our park as the home field.
Super.
So we now have 2 programs using our park as the home field. So
That's wonderful.
again, just another example of how that grant and that little bit of investment early on is really helping to attract people to our park. And then the other thing is just, it is a little school related. I'm sure Cordell would have mentioned it. This is actually homecoming week for Mount Healthy. There will be no parade. And fans are limited at the games. So there's really nothing going on other than they're doing a Spirit Week virtually, which is kind of, we're trying. And then as far as games go, because I actually had an email to my city account. I don't know if that was a mistake or not, asking about tickets to the games. Right now, the audience is limited to 2 family members for every athlete on the team, band, cheerleaders. I think that's it. So 2 to each of those kids. And then they were only reserving 20 for staff. So there are no general public tickets right now, unfortunately, because
Yes.
of the pandemic, but they are able to play. So it is homecoming. If anybody's interested, it is going to be streamed live on Waycross. They are playing Northwest, which is their rival. So, so it will be streamed online, but you don't have to worry about a traffic jam this week. There won't be any parade or any of the other festivities.
And that's all a shame.
It is. It
It's
is.
awful.
It is. That's the end of the report.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. City Manager, Mr. Bill Coker.
Pretty quick one tonight as well. Just an update on community development block grant. One, I included in your packet, an email from Jim Lowenberg, a resident, giving some thoughts on funding. So, and I mentioned this before, we're getting ready to start a new 3-year cycle. There's a mandatory Zoom call with community development on September 28th, and I can get a better idea of what they're gonna want. Typically, we have to have public input sessions and different things. I don't know if that's gonna be a requirement this year, so probably at the next meeting, I'll be able to get a better idea. The applications are due on November 2nd, so we'll have to come up with what we want to do, and I'll have a better process that we need to follow at our next meeting. And there's also community development block grants administering the COVID funds. I thought, and I mentioned, I thought we were gonna be able to use those funds to do the work that's required in the fire department. Doesn't look like that's gonna be a possibility, but something that's gaining a lot of traction, and I've talked to Kim Cremines and I've reached out to a couple other businesses. A lot of what they're supporting and funding are projects that allow businesses like restaurants and so forth to expand to the outside. So we've kind of looking at a couple projects that would become a permanent situation, but it could be an area where people, the old Jewel down there, that's an area that's close to Goodies and Angelo's, of maybe having some outdoor. But I'm trying to get a hold of those owners and get more input, but that could be a possibility. So that's something we'll just go full steam ahead on, working with community development, and hopefully we can get funded. So good news, bad news is we'll still have to figure out how to pay for the upgrades that we need for the fire department, but that's definitely underway. And that's all I had for tonight.
Okay, super. Questions? Okay, moving on. Finance Director, Mr. Scott Bauer.
August is finalized and available.
Thank you, sir. Ordinances and Resolutions. We have the second reading of an ordinance, ordinance number 20-1917, an ordinance amending sections 34.21 of the Mount Holly, Ohio Code of Ordinances. This is in regards to the police department and the number of officers. At our first reading on September 1st.
Just kind of related with that, Civil Services has certified the top 10 scores on that, for that hiring process, and that's been turned over to the PD. So that's one of the things that we're doing here. And then we also have the COPS grant that will allow us to continue to move forward.
When can we hire from the COPS grant? When does the money come in for that?
The funds have been released. Yeah, it's not real specific, but I mean, we're planning on hiring it off of this list here. So.
Okay, good. Good. Yes, Mr. Redding.
I just want to make that grant, that has to be a patrol officer, correct? Or in the schools, or?
Well,
we couldn't hire a detective or something like that with those dollars, or
Right.
could we?
When you submit for the grant, you have to give an area of focus. And the two areas were for schools and for domestic violence, to have a focus on that. So, that's where we're going to that's where we're going to put our efforts. Now, it's not going to necessarily be, they'll be full-time at the school, but that's where our focus needs to be, and we're going to implement that in as part of the grant. So, but they will do patrolling though as well. So it's not just going to be restricted to that.
Okay. So, but it could it be like a patrol/detective, since we're talking about domestic violence, or?
No, I mean, we already have a detective.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know if, well, which leads to my next question. Is there any kind of holes that we have right now that we might need, maybe, and Bill, I don't know, I'm just kind of asking to make sure we're getting the best use out of folks. Do we need another detective? Do we need 3 sergeants versus 2? Do we need?
You want to talk to the chief? He would say absolutely we do, but I mean.
Yeah.
There's, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't even know where our revenues are, but
Sure.
There's some merit in that, in that discussion. I think it'll probably be part of the budgeting process this year. To look at that. I mean, administratively with 2 sergeants and what needs to be done in the world we live in today is huge. It's a huge burden there, and then that's their, it would be nice to layer in a third to spread that over 3 people, to allow them to be not just so tied to administrative things, and to be able to get out and work with officers too. So I think it's something we need to look at, but it's, we gotta see where we're at budgetarily.
I'm not, I would guess I would say at every position, if we need another detective or something like
Right.
that, or, yeah.
No, I think if you, that's the one that the chief hits me on regularly, is the consideration for the sergeant, the third
okay.
supervisor.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions, council, regarding this ordinance?
This is the one.
Mr. Redding.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 20-1917.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made an motion to adopt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Peterson has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody, Mr. Parsons, Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Stosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Okay, by a vote of 4, that was all we have, right? 4-0. Ordinance 20-1917 is adopted, and that is our only legislation. You know how long it's been since we didn't have new legislation?
I know.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
Okay, Old Business Council.
I don't know if this is old or new, but we had the ribbon cutting for the Health Connection on Friday. And Jenny and I were there.
I did not make it.
You didn't make it.
Sorry, I had
yeah.
work,
So-
work got in the way.
It was very nice. It's a very beautiful building, and we took a tour, and the new dental facilities and everything that they have. So it was
Great.
very nice, yes.
When do they plan to open?
I think they're
They're open.
open now.
Oh, they're open now? Moving in.
They started today or yesterday.
It was, yeah, I know they were having a soft opening and they were gonna start accepting patients this week.
Wonderful.
So,
Great.
Long time coming. You think
It
back how
was.
long ago it was we
Yeah,
had that property?
Yep.
Yep.
Dolores got it done. She did.
Yes.
The hoops you went
Lindsay,
through to
man.
sell it to them.
She's retiring now.
I probably, the day they opened up that door, I think she started on it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
She's
good
been
for her. It's
planning-
well deserved.
she's been planning that forever.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
So what do they offer up here now at Compton that they didn't? I
Den-
couldn't, dental?
Dental mainly, yeah.
Yeah.
But they also offer vision too, correct?
Mhm.
Yep, so, and of course, medical, so. And it's open to everybody,
Yes.
Yeah.
Private insurance and
yeah, yeah, yep,
public and sliding scale.
yep.
Super. Okay, other Old Business Council. New business. No new
Well,
business?
I do have something, because I've heard other communities on the news. What's our plan for Halloween?
Good question. I can actually, Bill and I haven't talked about this yet, but I actually reached out to them because or maybe I did tell you, I actually had a church reach out to me, and then the Scouts and Knights of Columbus reach out to me about trunk or treats. Because a lot of churches around here do it. And the Scouts, actually, since they can't do the haunted hall, they were hoping to do a trunk or treat where the monsters from the haunted hall will actually hand out candy. It's kind of a neat idea since they're closed this year. So I reached out to Hamilton County Public Health and asked those questions, and they're very frustrated. Their reply back was that the state has given them no guidance on Halloween or Halloween-related activities yet.
Yeah.
So they were told to expect it in October, which is kind of late to plan things ahead of time. So I'm
They're just waiting to see the numbers.
yeah, so I'm constantly in communication with public health, with Greg Kesterman personally. So he's been great in communicating things with me. Unfortunately, they don't know much at Hamilton County. It really comes down to DeWine's 2 o'clock press conferences, and they hear it when we hear it. So right now, it's not up to us. We'll see how things go. I mean, I assume we plan on trick-or-treating until we hear otherwise.
Tell the kids to put on a mask and go outside.
Yeah, they usually
Yeah,
walk
I
in
don't-
family groups anyway.
That's what I would well,
Which
I'm no doctor, but
My opinion is we have to do if the state says no. we
No,
have option.
absolutely, right,
Yeah.
right.
If they say it's up to individual,
Why wouldn't we? Right.
yeah.
yeah,
think-
I could, Halloween's on a Saturday,
Right.
and I can tell you Home Depot is selling out of stuff
Yeah, they are.
fast. So, all the fall decorations and Halloween decorations, so.
So I'll get something out there as soon as we know, and I'll relay it to Ray and Bill so we can get
I
it
sent
out on
you
the
something.
social media and on the website, but.
Yeah, but I like that plan. If we get calls, hey, our plan is to,
All
you
the
know,
state,
yeah, proceed as normal until we're told otherwise by the state. I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, just wear the mask. And stay in family groups. Okay, any other new business?
Compliments to Keisha, I really like her mask.
I'll have to look at it when we're done.
It has an L and an S on it.
Oh, yes, LaSalle, I did see that.
Lancers roll deep.
That's right.
That's where our money went too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I make a
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn by Ms. Lingo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Dosa?
That was just a part of our work session discussion.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody object? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Town left.